Hello, and welcome to the AO Patient Outcome Center training series. This video will cover how to grant other clinical users within your HIPAA entity access to a patient group you have created. There are two ways to grant clinical users access to your patient group. The first is using the Patient Groups module, and the second using the Clinical Users module. The Patient Groups module will allow you to grant multiple clinical users access to a single patient group at the same time. The Clinical Users module will allow you to grant a single user access to multiple patient groups at the same time. Let's first use the Patient Groups module to grant access to a set of users. First, click on the Patient Groups button. Next, click on the patient group to which you would like to grant access. On the next screen, pull down on the menu and click on Manage Clinical Users. Next, click on the Add to Group button. You will now see a list of all of the clinical users within your HIPAA entity. Find the users you would like to grant access and click the Add button next to their name. You will then be prompted to choose their level of access for this patient group. The levels of access include Basic Access, Export Data, Edit Data, and Manage Clinical Team. Basic Access allows a user to use most features, including adding patients and creating a patient group. Export Data Access allows the user to export all data files from a given patient group. The Edit Data Access level allows users to enter data into the system. And Manage Clinical Team allows a user to add, remove, or edit other users' access to this specific patient group. Once you have selected the level of access you would like for this specific clinical user, click on Save. Repeat this process until you have granted access to each clinical user as necessary. These users will now have appropriate access to this specific patient group. We will now cover how to grant access to a patient group via the Clinical Users module. First, click on the Clinical Users button on the home page. Next, search for the user you want to add to your patient group by entering their name in the appropriate fields and then clicking on the magnifying glass icon. If the user is found, click on the person's hyperlink name. On the next screen, you will see a list of your patient groups. To add the clinical user to a specific patient group, click on the Add button next to the appropriate group. You will be prompted to select their level of access, Basic, Export Data, Edit Data, and Manage Clinical Team. Once you have selected their level of access, click the Save button. Repeat this process until you have granted this user access to the appropriate patient groups. I hope this training session has helped you to better understand how to grant other clinical users access to your patient group. If you have any questions, please email us at support@aopoc.com.